In Washington, an important update is stirring nationwide attention among millions of Americans who depend on Social Security. The U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics has announced that it will release the September Consumer Price Index report, the CPI, on October 24th, a date that carries immense weight for retirees, people with disabilities, and families who rely on supplemental security income. This report isn't just another government statistic. It's the key that unlocks next year's cost of living adjustment, or COLA, for Social Security benefits. For millions of seniors trying to keep their heads above water in an economy that seems to take more than it gives, the COLA announcement determines how much extra, if any, they'll receive each month to keep up with rising prices. But this year, the announcement comes amid turmoil. The U.S. government entered a shutdown on October 1st, halting much of its normal operations and delaying several vital economic reports. As days tick by, uncertainty grows, leaving many retirees wondering not only about the timing of the COLA announcement, but about the stability of the system they rely on most. You're watching Truth Lens, the channel that goes beyond the headlines to bring clarity, honesty, and heart to the issues that shape the lives of ordinary Americans, especially our seniors, those who've worked their whole lives, paid into the system, and now deserve security and respect. Here we tell the stories that matter, not from the polished podiums of Washington, but from the kitchen tables and living rooms of those living on fixed incomes. We know that every Social Security check is more than a number. It's a lifeline that keeps food on the table, medicine in the cabinet, and a roof overhead. So as we break down the facts about the delayed CPI report, the pending COLA adjustment, and how this year's government shutdown might ripple through the economy, we also want to take a moment to speak directly to those of you struggling to make ends meet. You are not forgotten. Your voice matters, and Truth Lens is here to make sure it's heard. The Bureau of Labor Statistics confirmed that despite the shutdown, it will prioritize the release of the September CPI report on October 24th, ensuring the Social Security Administration can meet its legal deadlines to calculate and distribute benefits accurately. This was not an easy task. Many government agencies remain frozen due to the funding lapse, and the normal flow of economic data collection has been severely disrupted. But the CPI report is too critical to delay further. It serves as the foundation for determining how much Social Security payments will increase next year. The calculation uses the Consumer Price Index for urban wage earners and clerical workers, CPIW, comparing data from the third quarter of 2024 to the third quarter of 2025. This ensures that any COLA increase reflects real inflation, not outdated estimates. For millions of retirees, the COLA announcement is one of the most anticipated moments of the year, a rare piece of financial news that directly affects their day-to-day lives. In 2025, over 72.5 million Americans received a 2.5% COLA, raising the average monthly benefit for retirees to about $2,008. For many, that increase translated to just a few extra dollars a week, and barely enough to cover a couple of grocery items or a small rise in utility costs. Now, as inflation continues to hover above comfort levels, every penny counts more than ever. Early projections from the Senior Citizens League, one of the nation's most respected senior advocacy organizations, suggest that the 2026 COLA might be around 2.7%, potentially lifting the average benefit to roughly $2,062 a month. That's an estimated increase of $54 per month, or about $650 a year. It's a welcome boost. But for those living on tight budgets, it may still feel like trying to hold back a flood with a bucket. Groceries, gas, healthcare, and rent have all risen faster than most retirees' checks, creating a reality where each month feels like a test of endurance. Behind the scenes, economists are warning that this year's shutdown could distort parts of the CPI data. Normally, prices are collected throughout the month to create an accurate picture of inflation trends. But because a third of the data for October wasn't collected due to furloughed workers, there's concern that this could lead to temporary spikes or gaps in the inflation numbers. Some experts, like economist Veronica Clark from Citigroup, noted that collecting prices only at the end of October might show higher averages than usual, potentially inflating the reported rate of price increases. Others, including Michael Gappin from Morgan Stanley, suggested that while short-term reports might be noisy, future data will even out once normal collection resumes. These technical details may sound distant from everyday life, but they matter deeply because every percentage point in the CPI affects how much Social Security beneficiaries receive. And for retirees living on fixed incomes, even small miscalculations can mean real hardship. A skipped meal, a delayed prescription, or another month of worrying whether the check will stretch far enough. What's unfolding right now in Washington is more than a bureaucratic hiccup. It's a reminder of how fragile the systems are that millions depend on. The government shutdown, now weeks long, has frozen countless services, stalled economic reports, and left public workers without pay. But amid all the noise and political blame, one thing remains certain, as Social Security checks are still being issued. Funding for Social Security is separate from the general budget, meaning that retirees can still count on their payments arriving on time. That consistency is something to hold on to during uncertain times. Still, the COLO announcement delay adds anxiety for many seniors already living month to month. They're left wondering, will next year's increase be enough? Will it cover the rising cost of groceries, medical bills, or heating during winter? These aren't abstract concern. They're the real questions seniors across America are asking today. Inflation has hit older Americans especially hard. Many are retired but still face mortgages, car loans, or growing healthcare costs. Prescription drug prices have continued to rise, with some life-saving medications costing hundreds of dollars each month, even after insurance. At the same time, the cost of housing and food has soared, pushing fixed-income households to the edge. A 2.7% COLA sounds hopeful, but for those paying hundreds more for the same essentials they bought last year, it often feels like running in place. Seniors across Michigan, Florida, Texas, and every corner of the country share the same story: doing more with less, cutting back on meals, and putting off doctor visits to make ends meet. And while the COLA increase helps, many say it's simply not keeping up with reality. Meanwhile, the Federal Reserve is preparing for another interest rate cut, expected at its October 28th to 29th meeting, which could influence the broader economy. Lower rates can help borrowers, but may also slow growth in savings accounts and retirement funds. For retirees relying on both Social Security and modest personal savings, these shifts can create a delicate balance, one that leaves little room for error. Every policy decision trickles down, and the smallest changes can mean the difference between stability and struggle for those already living on the edge. Despite all the uncertainty, there's one thing to take comfort in. Social Security remains one of the most reliable institutions in American life. Even during shutdowns, political stalemates, and economic turbulence, payments continue. The system may face challenges, but it has endured for generations and continues to serve as a pillar of security for seniors, the disabled, and survivors. Still, as each year passes and the cost of living rises, it's becoming clear that adjustments alone aren't enough. Seniors need stronger protections, more affordable health care, and real solutions that match the reality they face, not the statistics policymakers quote. At Truth Lens, we stand with America's seniors. We understand that for many of you watching right now, every decision made in Washington affects your kitchen table. When the government delays data, it delays clarity. And when clarity is delayed, anxiety rises. We believe every senior deserves transparency, respect, and a system that truly works for them. You've paid into Social Security your whole life. You've contributed, you've sacrificed, and you've earned every dollar that comes back to you. These aren't handouts, they're your rights. And as the CPI report is prepared, as economists debate inflation, and as officials argue over numbers, what matters most is you, the retirees who built this nation and continue to hold it together through quiet resilience. So as we await the October 24th CPI report and the subsequent COLA announcement, remember this: your benefits are safe, your payments will continue, and your voice still matters. The government may be shut down, the data may be delayed, but the promise of Social Security endures. It stands as a living testament to the American idea that no one who works hard their whole life should have to grow old in poverty. And while 2.7% might not sound like much on paper for millions of seniors across this country, it represents hope. Hope for a little extra breathing room, for a meal without guilt, for a bill paid on time, and for the simple dignity of security in later years. Here at Truth Lens, we'll continue following this story every step of the way, breaking down the facts, exposing the truth, and giving you the information that truly matters. Because when it comes to Social Security, every number tells a story, and that story is yours.